we know that people, they sell very logically, but they buy very emotionally. And, therefore, anything you do when you are actually listing the house should be emotional marketing.
Hello and welcome to Keeping It Real, the podcast where we talk to the most interesting real estate agents, brokers, and technologists in real estate. I'm Chris Whitling, VP of Marketing at Real Geeks. Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. We are an integrated website and CRM platform that allows you to deliver value at scale. Craig's going to talk about a bunch of stuff related to open houses and how to maximize open houses as a lead generation source and how to master the follow-up. But he's also going to talk about how Real Geeks is an integral part of that system. So with that, let's get started on mastering open houses with Craig. Craig, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm not as famous as my beard is, actually. Most people only know my beard. But I have been around the Real Geeks world for I've been using Real Geeks for about 10 years. I'm in upstate New York, between Buffalo and Syracuse. And I've been serving that market with a team of, it usually ranges between 25 and 30 agents. And we give on our agents. We basically are like a team, but we're a brokerage. So, and, I fell into Real Geeks because it was an amazing platform. I did a lot of research and I come from a tech background. So I know enough to be dangerous. And Real Geeks kind of had everything that I was looking for in a platform, and it hasn't changed. I mean, it's only gotten better over time as they've added more and more stuff that just made it better and better and better. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, today as well, hopefully. So. Yeah,
definitely. Well, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because it seems like it's really a real estate 101 type thing, but you are the guy that's all about like the deep integrations and the automations. So I think this is going to go from how to do open houses to this is really the way that you maximize this channel the most. So let's jump right in. So open houses, right? Maybe we should just start at the top. Like when you're thinking about doing an open house, how are you preparing for it?
Yeah, well, to start off, I think, you got to look at open houses as a lead source. You need to generate leads in our industry. It starts off with that. That's what becomes a customer, hopefully, and then hopefully becomes a client if you're doing everything right. So you got to have the steps in place. And, you should be looking for places to generate leads. Some of them might come from pay-per-click. Some of them might come from open houses like we're talking about now. Some of them could come from your relationship building and your friends and family and your center of influence. So those things are all going to come together. Now, here's the important part. If you write one thing down today in our meeting or our training here is the fact of you need to put them all in one place. Do not put some people over here and some people over there. And there's no value in that. So any person you talk to, you should be putting in your Real Geek system. If you're not, you're missing out on an enormous amount of opportunity, as well as a systemized approach to following your business through the whole process. So all of our people go in, anybody we've met at an open house is going to go into the CRM, and I will tell you when we put it in and how we put it in. So to start off, open houses
we're like a minute and a half in and you're already dropping the bombs.
I hope so. We're going to get something out of this. So to start off, we train our agents that open houses aren't just this thing where you show up, right when the thing starts and then, and then get, and then put a sign out front and stand in the kitchen and wait for people to come in and ask them to fill out a card. I mean, that is not the way you want to handle an open house. There's so much value in getting this done properly, and it should start a few days before the open house even happens. One of the ways is you should be sending out through a few different methods. If you want to do some circle prospecting around the neighborhood, you can make some phone calls. We typically will drop off flyers at the doors around as a VIP, inviting people to come to the open house as a neighbor. And we usually give them a 15 to 20 minute head start on the actual market. This gets them into the house. We know then they're typically a neighbor, and we're trying to see if they're interested in selling their home as well by asking some very strategic questions. Some of those questions would be, hey, I'm going to have a lot of people through this home. Do you happen to know anybody else that's selling in the neighborhood? Because this might not be the perfect home for the person walking through, but your home or a neighbor's home might be. So we're identifying if there's any other potential opportunities within that neighborhood.
That was exactly going to be my first question when you brought this up. And I'm going to come about this again a lot as like sort of an industry outsider. So I ask some like really basic questions, but it seems so obvious to invite the neighbors. But again, what's the goal there? So it sounds like you're looking for maybe the opportunity to sell their home if they like what's going on here. It's not just to satisfy the curiosity. If they already live in the neighborhood, they're probably not a buyer for that home, right?
Correct. Yeah. But they're still typically curious. And we put a lot of our language when it comes to the flyers and our conversations and everything. They're curious about the condition of their neighbor's home, and they're curious of what it's going to sell for or what it's on the market for and how it compares to their home. When we're doing CMAs or comparable market analysis, it's based on other homes in the market that are similar to theirs. So the best way to kind of feel that is to go into your neighbor's home and get an idea of how that feels in contrast to yours. And hopefully you can be semi, honest to that. I mean, everybody thinks their home's the nicest, but you know how that goes. So The reality is we want to open that up to them so they can see the potential worth of their home. And if they're interested in getting a more detailed approach, then we're going to, offer that up as well. Hey, if you'd like us to come by and give you the kind of same treatment we've given this potential seller, we'd love to do that for you as well. So,
gotcha. Okay. So you're already using this channel, I'll call it a channel, to generate referrals, potentially drum up extra business outside of the listing that you're actively working on.
Yeah. So, I mean, from there, it's signage is important, especially if you're looking for drive-by traffic. The whole point of a open house is to generate more business. It's typically not to actually sell the house. Most of your best buyers are going to be people that are actively looking. It's very rare that someone's just going to be driving by and accidentally fall into the home they love. Not saying it couldn't happen and not saying we're going to stop that from happening, but the reality is most buyers are going to be people that are actively looking in the market. Now,
so it's not an impulse purchase is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. And then, I mean, the most important thing to take away from here is the fact that the people that come in are twofold. Number one, they might not be in an active market. So they might be looking for a way to kind of get into the market without like raising their hand and coming in for a formal appointment and stuff. So it'd be kind of like going to a car dealer or a car show and looking at, some cars versus calling a car dealership and setting up an appointment to meet with them. So the reality is we want to give that opportunity for them to come in at a softer approach and maybe just feel the market out a little bit. Second off, we want to realize that, these open houses are an amazing opportunity for you to build some really great rapport with these people. It's a much higher quality lead source than just an internet lead, because with an internet lead, you haven't got a chance to talk to them yet. With a open house lead, you're getting to put yourself in front of them and show some of your professionalism from the start. And this is where it really changes. So I'll get into that one second, but first we want to make sure we got good signage out there. We don't want to just be one layer out. We want to be 2 layers out at least. Especially if you're in a busy area or you have a really great listing for that particular style neighborhood or township or whatever, you want to make sure that you're driving traffic from the most prominent areas. And you should get a map and look at where that is. Go ahead, Chris.
Describe what you mean by layer.
So our bigger signs, so we'll have like, your normal real estate signs, they should be like 24 inch by 24 inch or somewhere around there. And those will probably have 6 to 8 of those driving traffic in from, as far out as you can put those signs. You should have them coming from as many areas as you can. After that, we put in a smaller sign, which would be like probably a 1 foot by 1 foot little bandit sign that's on a stake, and you can just drive those in real quick. And you should be going out 1 layer further. You really need a map to do this. You should print out a Google map and kind of draw where you're going to put all your signs, and get out 45 minutes before the open house and start putting those signs. The other thing that's really critical and really impactful is also putting attention grabbers on there of some kind. We like to use those metal balloons or like a Mylar balloon because they're reflective. Mm-hmm. And the benefit of the balloon is that somebody knows that sign hasn't been there for 4 days or something, because a balloon would be, flopping down
Sagging.
or blown off.
Yeah.
So this says, hey, this is something new, and it grabs your eye, and it does drive traffic. Some people will use pinwheels and stuff like that too, whatever works for you. But those balloons, we get them at like a Dollar General for $1 each. So, you get them, you put them up, and then, give them to kids or something after.
We're getting really into the weeds here, but you like bring your own helium tank?
No, we don't get into that. We tried that. Yeah. That was I would advise against. I mean, we used to have some of the agents would have like a little mini helium tank with the balloons. You blow them up, but it's just more clumsy than just stopping at a place if you can. So,
what about the sign itself? Like I'm a marketing guy. I'm frequently driving by signs, being like, "Wow, they made the text too small," or like the messaging on that was like pretty unclear. Like, what do you put on your open house signs?
Well, so this is my take on all of that. Stop being such a vanity hog and focusing on yourself. Make it about the client and make it easy to read. I'd rather see an open house sign that had no brokerage on it or whatever. It was just straight, like, this is where you go to look at a house. They're not coming because they see your name, or they're not driving past and going, oh, so-and-so. The reality is if you think that, you haven't been in real estate long enough, and you're in it for the wrong reasons. It's the same thing when an agent wants to start right away and have a beautiful business card. Like, to me, it's not what's going to impact your business.
You're putting the cart before the horse. So you're like, yeah. So maybe to reiterate what you just said, it sounds like, the sign should focus on what you're selling, which is the house, not yourself.
Yeah. I would have it very clear. If you can have an arrow that's very distinctive, like a day glow color, like those day glow orange or whatever, you can get your sign company and make them like that. They really stick out and they capture your eye. And that's what it's about, is, something that's easy to follow. Those signs shouldn't be more at absolute max, like 1/8 of a mile apart. Like, you make them too far apart, people start getting lazy. You got to kind of breadcrumb them there. You got to get them to come to the house. So then when they get to the house, you want it to be super noticeable which house it is, and the door should be open on the front if there's a screen door or whatever. If there isn't, then obviously got to keep it closed. But this is the most important thing. So this is the second thing I'd write a note about. You should be greeting the person at the front door. If you are a jerk agent standing in the kitchen, you are an idiot. You got to get off your butt, go to the door, and do your job. Take your phone and don't even bring it into the open house, in my opinion. It shouldn't even be in there. Your focus during that appointment is the client and building rapport with those people. And the only way you can do that is if you're present. And if you're over in a corner checking the football game or the baseball game, or looking at Pinterest or whatever else you're doing, or answering a phone call from another agent, you know what? That time should be blocked for that open house, not doing other jobs in between. Yeah. So I would get up, meet them at the front door, and then say exactly this. And this comes from years and years and years of me trying this with a million different clients. And this is exactly what you got to say. You got to say, I'm going to give you a quick tour of the home, point out some of the features that the sellers asked me to review with you, and then I'm going to let you tour on your own. You cannot ask them if they want a tour. If you ask them if they want a tour, they're going to almost always say, no, I'll look on my own. So you don't give them that option. You say exactly like I said. You say, I'm going to give you a quick tour to point out some features, and then I'm going to let you look on your own. So they get both things they wanted, but you have now an opportunity that you wouldn't have had before. That opportunity is to tour them through the home, ask them some questions, build some rapport. If you walk through an open house on your own, you can look at it in like 2 minutes. I mean, because you're just popping your eyes in the rooms and you're cranking through. And if you're the agent that's standing there in the kitchen trying to build enough rapport with somebody to give you a full contact card, you're out of your mind. They're never going to do it. So take control of the process. Go ahead, Chris.
So I love this because it totally matches my personal experience. But rewinding a little bit, like when you're preparing for the open house, like going back to like preparation, are you talking to the seller and finding out like, hey, what are the key things that you've done to this house? What are you most proud of? Like, like what questions are you asking them versus like just you as an experienced real estate agent? Like, that like this and that are things that need to be pointed out because that's what's gonna move the needle.
Yeah. So this goes back to the listing, actually, and the listing presentation. We know that people, they sell very logically, but they buy very emotionally. And, therefore, anything you do when you are actually listing the house should be an emotional marketing piece, right? So you want them to feel, what makes this house special? What's the story of this home? What is unique about this home that the 5 other homes that are in the same price point in the same neighborhood might not have? And they might have them, but they're not marketing them. So you need to know what those unique marketing points are to make somebody want this home a little bit more than the other ones. And that only comes from, you're not going to know that as an agent. Some things might stick out. I mean, if it has like this gorgeous view or it has this amazing backyard, whatever, some of that stuff's going to stick out. But like, you might not know about like the stocked fish pond around the corner that, might be important to some people and not to others, but everybody should kind of know about that. And so those little details are going to be the things that can leverage the home. And, if there's a great walking trail, or, the seller is a marathon runner and they run this particular route because it's so easy and safe. And, things that like become sticky for you currently, or stuff that you're not comfortable with that can be overcome by, something that this home has. And so being able to talk about that in the process is critical. You should also just, do your homework and have like the understanding of the basic questions everybody wants to know about the house when they walk in the front. So, when they come to the front door, I'm going to say, welcome to 123 Street Road. This is a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house that's about 2,500 square foot. And we currently have it listed at 1.2 million, whatever. So, and the reality is you want to go through that, because those are the questions they're already going to want to know. And they're not going to remember it all when you say it at that point, but it just shows your professionalism and makes it feel like an event versus just, hey, how you doing? And then they're wondering, what do you know about the house? Or so I think just coming out with those things right out of the gates. If there's a couple other factors that matter to that particular property, like maybe school districts or something like that, I would point those out as well.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all great tips. And the next question I want to ask you is about actually capturing that contact information. But before we jump into that, let's take a moment and hear from some of the Keeping It Real friends.
What's up, Real Geeks? You have got to join me this October for the Real Geeks User Conference in Dallas, Texas. 3 days of sharing with each other, learning from each other, parties, sessions, breakouts, tech talk, life talk, setting out a course for where you're going with your life and your business, and figuring out an exact plan to get there. It's going to be great. Go get your tickets at urguc.com. All your questions are answered there. Discounts on hotels, tickets, all the information, where, when, same place as last year. All the information's there at urguc.com. I will see you there.
All right, Craig, we were talking about capturing contact information. At what point, I mean, that kind of seems like the asking for the close moment in this whole situation. So how do you do that? And like, how do you like make that feel natural?
So I've found that you get the highest quality contact information when you've earned it. So if you've earned, I always say when you earn the card, that's when you're going to have the best information. So as I'm going through the process of bringing them through the home, now that tour with me is going to take much longer than them going on their own. And I have it set up I have certain triggers through the house. So things that when I see or I touch or whatever through the house, it triggers me to either ask a certain kind of question. And here's an example. Whenever I walk up a flight of stairs in a house, and ranches is the only tough time, but in most cases, when I'm walking up a flight of stairs, that's when I'm going to ask them what they do for a living. My back is to them and they're more apt to just answer the question. It doesn't feel like I'm interrogating them. So the reality is I have a trigger. I'm sorry, I had someone coming in the door and I didn't want it to blow up my dog. So I apologize if I was a little bit stumbly there. But having those triggers in place to do certain things that you want to do, like if you always forget to ask a certain question to everybody that comes to your open house, you should create a trigger. Maybe it's a piece of tape, or maybe it's every time I touch the dishwasher or whatever it is, that should be your cue to ask that question so that you don't forget important information through the process. So I have several of those that I teach my team, but I also do. I usually will ask for the card when I get back to the kitchen. So when I get to the kitchen, I usually have some stuff laid out with some flyers and stuff. And I'll say, hey, I need to grab. And once again, I'm going to make it sound important. The reason I'm getting it is for the seller to share their contact information with the seller that they came through for obviously safety reasons. And, they've asked for me to gather that information for them. And I am going to fill out the card. I will never let the the customer fill out the card. And this is twofold. Number one, I'm terrible at reading other people's handwriting. So I've learned over years that if they fill it out, I'm not going to be able to read it. And then my whole weekend there was a waste of my time. So I want to be able to actually be able to communicate with them. Number two, what I found over time is when you put a card in front of somebody else, now there's this weird silence. And we're salespeople and we want to fill the silence. We're crazy about that. So we end up starting to ask them questions while they're trying to fill out the card. And some people are not very good at multitasking. So we're basically messing them up. And sometimes they'll write their phone number down wrong, or they'll write their name down wrong, because they're trying to do two things at the same time. So what I found was when I'm asking them the questions, it's interactive. So I'm asking them their first name. They're watching me write their first name down and making sure I'm spelling it right when I'm writing it down. So therefore, there's no weird silence. It's a natural way to do it. And therefore, I continue to go to the next step, and I don't stop, and I have full confidence in asking for all the information. Therefore, I also get full cards versus cards that are, well, do you really need my phone number? Do you really need this? Do you really need that? Or, so it just makes it a lot easier to get the full contact card. And I judge how good my open house is based on how many full contact cards I get.
And you like pen and paper. You don't do any digital, no notes on your phone or, none of that.
So I've tried it all because I'm techie. So I had the iPad there with, and it was all branded, and you type the thing in. And, what I found is when I'm handwriting them out, everybody can do it. When I had the iPad, some people with the iPad, it's hard to find the @ symbol sometimes. And it was just clumsy. And, with a tech savvy person, they jump in and they pound it out, and it was amazing. But it was the 20 to 30% of people that couldn't, that I'm just why am I overcomplicating this? I don't need to do that. And once again, then you're handing it over to them. Now you could do it yourself, because I did do that a little bit for a while too, because I had it auto input into my Real Geeks database. But I just find filling the card out, it works for me. I would find something that works for you, but something you have control over, and something that's, you're not just using tech to use tech, you're using tech because it is actually helping you out. So
yeah, I wanted to rewind a little bit and go back to the triggers thing, because that's it's pretty genius. Is that something you train with your agents? Okay, if you're new, then I'm just going to give you a list of okay, the hand railing is the what do you do? The dishwasher is the whatever, or is this something that you just advise people and they develop on their own?
So we semi-advise, but I always give them tips, like you said. So there's probably half of my agents that are asking what they do when they walk up the stairs, because we just go over that all the time. Mm-hmm. I do think that would be an awesome add-on to your training. However, everybody has different things that trigger them too. So I don't want to make it so systemized that they lose kind of their own edge on it, I guess.
Right. They got to make it their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So once we get the card, and after the person's left, if there is downtime at the open house and there's no one there, the first thing we're going to do is put it in the CRM. I want that. And this is what I share with people. It's once again, probably something worth writing down. When I have a card that's filled out with somebody's name and it's not in the CRM, it makes me cringy. Personally, it should make you personally, as an agent, you should be so worried. It's like having a bunch of cash just laying on a table. That's how I would kind of think about it, not getting it into your bank account. Because as it's around, a lot of bad things happen. Number one, it could get thrown into a pile of other paperwork and get lost for good. Number two, this is what happens most of the time, so listen up. It could sit in a pile of a ton of leads that you never do anything with for 6 months. And I know that anybody honest on this phone call has had that happen. I personally myself had that happen. And you're almost embarrassed to reach out to these people after that 6 months, because you're just what a terrible salesperson am I, not to reach out to anybody. So the reality is the sooner you get systemized. So that's why I say the minute you get it, the sooner you can get it into the CRM, it's safe. It's in a bank account then. So it's sitting there and you can access it anywhere. So if it's written down on a piece of paper at my office, sitting on my desk, and I'm in the grocery store and I see that customer 4 days later, I might not remember their name. I might not remember their husband's name. I might not have remembered something about them. I can go to my Real Geeks site, type in the one person's name, and the other person's name will show up right next to it for me. So I'm using it as a tool to keep myself organized and have everything at my fingertips at all times, because you're always going to have some type of internet connection nowadays, at least. So,
in most places.
And then on top of that, we have a complete systemized approach after that. So the other thing is all of our agents we have a ton of different style thank you cards we give out to our agents for free. We believe in handwritten stuff. And the reason for it is if you think about your mail right now that's coming to your house, how many nice handwritten letters are you getting? Not very many. So, and you're definitely going to open that and look at it. I don't care who you are. You're going to take a look at what it is.
Is it a postcard, or is it like in an envelope? Like how do you do that?
In an envelope. So it's, we have a bunch of different styles and stuff, based on the agent's taste, or maybe the client's taste, or the time of season, or whatever else. We have some fun ones. We have some, professional ones. We have ones with quotes. We have, anything we think would be proper for our market. And they're blank on the inside. And it's, don't overcomplicate this. It does not need to be complicated. It just, I always write the date in the top right corner so they know when I wrote it. I write their name and I say, thank you so much for visiting my open house at 123 Street Road. It was so nice meeting you. If I can be of any assistance in your home or anything real estate related in the future, please let me know. I write my name and I always write my phone number next to it in case my business card that I throw in there gets removed from there. They always have that. People hold on to these. I will tell you this because I have gone to a lot of listing appointments 3 to 5 years later, and guess what they have at the table when I get there? My handwritten card. So if you don't think they work, you're a fool. You're missing out on a lot of opportunity. So take advantage of writing that card. It's the cheapest way to build a really strong relationship with somebody. And so we just send that. I put that in the mail. I usually have those at the open house. I write them and I throw them in the mailbox on my way home because I put the stamps in the corner. So, and I drop them off at the mailbox on my way home that night. And then what's happening is if you're putting them in a CRM, you're sending them an email. That email should be exactly what I just said. Thank you so much for visiting 123 Street Road. If you have any follow-up questions, please let me know, blah, blah, blah. So they're getting that within a few hours of the open house. They're getting a mailed piece from you 3 to 5 days later, depending on how fast the mail is. And then there's one other thing we do. We typically will call everybody that's come to the open house 15, 20 minutes after the open house.
So we've talked a little bit about CRMs and calling. So there's probably the other issue that people have in the back of their mind right now, which is what if they're already working with another agent? So like, how do you discover that? And is there any forks in this path if you find out that that's the situation?
Well, this is where we're going to get the feed below of like people telling me how to do my business.
People, get your fingers ready. Comment.
So I don't ask.
Okay.
If they have a real estate agent, their real estate agent should be telling them to tell anybody they run across that they're working with a real estate agent. So if they tell me they're working with a real estate agent, then I'm going to say, oh, you're working with a real estate agent. And then they're going to tell me more about it. They're probably going to tell me more than they need to about that, which is great. And then I'm going to say, are you happy with that real estate agent? Are you committed to that real estate agent? And they're going to answer that question. If they're committed and in writing, then it's complete hands off for my whole team. We're not going to play any games. That is not the type of business we do. But there's so many people that when you ask, so if you came into my model and you had or my open house and you had no experience at all in real estate and knew nothing about it. And the third question I asked you was, are you working with a real estate agent? How are you going to answer that? You might say yes, because you might think I'm going to kick you out of there if you say no, right? Because you might say, oh, I might have to have one. Holy cow. So then you go to the person you might think in the top of your head, whoever, maybe you met one real estate agent, or maybe you saw a real estate agent on a sign as you were coming up the neighborhood. Or maybe you don't want me to start harassing you yet. Maybe you just want to soft approach. So you just say, yeah, I'm working with somebody else. Right. Yeah. So I don't think the person's primed to answer that question properly yet. Because agents want to, and why do agents ask that question? Is it because they care about the other real estate agents? I find that hard to believe. Maybe they do. There's probably a few of you real estate agents out there that love your other real estate fellow agents. But my guess is you ask because you don't want to waste time with that person. You want to just cast them off immediately. And that's the reason you ask. And it's about you. And everything I've learned about real estate is when you start making it about you, you start losing customers very, very quickly. So I don't focus on me. I focus on them, making sure I'm providing value, making sure that I'm answering questions, making sure that I'm a resource to them. And if you focus on those things, then a lot of opportunity comes out of it. So I'll let them tell me. I mean, and when I send my people to open houses or I send my people out into the open public, believe me, they're telling everybody that I'm the realtor. I tell them, hey, here's my business cards. These are tickets to get into free open houses. When you walk in the door, take a business card and give it to the agent. So, I'm educating them on how to go to open houses. If you're not doing that right now, you should be doing that as well. Tell your people how to go to an open house. Educate them on the process so that you don't have an agent that takes them from you. And every single one of my clients is under contract with me before I go out and show them houses and stuff. If you're not getting buyer agency agreements because you think you're an amazing agent, you're not doing your customer or yourself justice. You need to get them committed to you in writing. They don't understand how our business works. Why do we expect them to do that? And that's the reason I don't use our jargon, the stuff like, pre-qual letter and, even mortgage. Like if you never bought a house, you don't know what that term means. So you should ask, are you financing? Don't use complicated industry words. You can educate them on those as you go through the process, but I don't start off with that. I'm not going to be like, that's another one. When you're making a phone call, like on a lead or whatever, that's another one all these agents ask right out of the gate. Are you pre-qualified? It's like, dude, I just took your call. Like, let's get to know each other a little bit first. So, going through that process, I think is really, really key. So when we put them in our CRM, just so you know, what we're doing is if they're not working with an agent, we're going to set them up on a search. We're going to send them, we're going to put them in our drip campaigns and our email campaigns. And, like I said, you should be sending a handwritten card that should also go into your CRM. So you know that it did. If you promised to, that's where I didn't finish up, Sean. We call all of our people about, if we're still at the open house and there's nobody there, I'll call them while I'm waiting. If I've finished the open house, I'll sit in the driveway or in the street and make a bunch of calls. And it's typically this. If you came by my open house, Sean, I would say, hey, Sean, typically when I'm out shopping for something, I always forget to ask a stupid question. I just wanted to check in real quick just to see if you had any follow-up questions on 123 Street Road. If not, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And then I wait and listen to what they say. Now they're going to say one or two things. Nope, we're good. Thank you so much. That was a great tour. We got so much great information. Thanks. I appreciate it. That's typically what I'm going to hear. Every once in a while, I'll hear, hey, you offered up that time to come in and meet and sit down and kind of go through the whole process A to Z. We had talked about it after we left. We would love to set that up this week. Great. I'm going to set that up. Or, hey, we left that house and we didn't think we really liked it, but I think we want to put an offer on that house. Okay, great. So a lot of good stuff can happen by just making that one little soft contact. Think about when you personally are going to buy something. Sometimes that time that the salesperson gives you, you slowly talk yourself out of it. And it could have been right for you. So, I'm not trying to say we're doing slimy sales here. What we're doing is we're being available for somebody who needs us at that time. So,
right. You're also continuing the conversation. I wanted to back up. You mentioned, giving your clients a stack of your own business cards and say this is, like free tickets to open houses. Do you encourage your clients to go to open houses, or maybe at what point in their buying cycle do you encourage that if you do?
We're in a market right now that's like no other market we've ever been in. So we have no inventory. And our customers, a normal market used to be you go look at 3 to 5 houses, you'd identify one that was beautiful for them. They would write an offer and their offer would be accepted. That was the typical world that we lived in. And, it wasn't perfect like that every time, but that was kind of the average. Right. Now it's, you do the same thing, but your offer doesn't get accepted. Then you start from scratch. You look 3 to 5 other ones. Your offer doesn't get accepted again. And it's not from strategically putting our customers in the right place. Some just aren't able. So, if you got somebody that, can take advantage of some of those things to get their offer accepted, like, potentially paying cash or, waiving an inspection or, But if they're an FHA buyer that needs some concessions, it's like, it's going to be a long run. And not that we're trying to remove ourselves from helping those people. We just have more buyers than we've ever had. So, to be just honest, we can't serve 12 active buyers out there and show them all a house because, our market's like a lot of the other ones. A lot of people are putting the houses all on at the same time. And, so the reality is we're encouraging them, hey, go do a quick walkthrough. If this is the one, or if this is one of those 5 houses that we look at that we're going to put an offer in, I want to go with you. I want to go back with you. So go ahead, take a look. And then because at least in our market, it's not so critical to put an offer in right away because everything's on delayed negotiation. So, we have usually 3 to 4 days to get back in there. Now, if that's not the case, you do have to be honest to then either find somebody to help you out with covering some of those showings or go out yourself. So I'm not saying remove yourself, but you also have to be honest to like the system and work it in the best manner. And, I'm very upfront with my clients about that too. But I do want to be there because I want to be able to point out, I want to use my professionalism to point out. I don't want them to overpay. I don't want them to, I want to be involved in the process.
When we were talking last October and we were all at the unofficial Real Geeks user conference, there was definitely this feeling the market was slowing down. And I'm kind of curious to dig a little bit deeper into your thoughts.
So, I'm in a lot of national groups as well. And, and if I encourage anybody to take advantage of coaching groups and whatnot. And, and I want to, before I go down that path and talk about my market, I do want to say, hey, if you're not getting to those, the unofficial Real Geeks, I think it's the official Real Geeks conference this year, but if you're not getting to those, you're missing out on an opportunity to meet other people that you might not get an answer right at that event, but like within a year, you're going to get so much out of that because you're going to build relationships with people at lunchtime and stuff like that. And, I've built relationships out of those groups over the last 3 to 5 years that have been instrumental, like have totally changed my business, like from the start. And on the same note, if you're not going back to the original Keeping It Reals, there's so much like amazing content in there that is just life-changing to your business. And you need to go back and just listen to some of that and write notes and actually implement some of those things. The reality is everybody's so giving, and that's the reason I originally went to the original Keeping It Real, or unofficial Real Geeks, was just to go and shake those guys' hands. A few of the guys, like the original guys, that original group, Jeff Manson, who was one of the founders, Todd, Greg Harrelson, I was hoping Jeff Quinn would be there too. I don't even know where that guy went, but like those guys like totally changed my business from day one. And if they wouldn't have been there, like so giving and sharing of their information, I honestly don't feel like I'd even be in real estate anymore, to be honest with you. And I know that sounds crazy, but I just know like the path that I've been on, and it's only been a result of that group of people like being willing to share. And then, you had the next group come through also willing, like Jason Smart and Lisa Chinati and all of those people also just willing to give and give and give. And that's the only reason I go on these calls. I'm not a coach. I'm not selling any product. I feel like I should be because I'm like, oh man, this is a great opportunity, but I'm not. I just want to pay it forward like they did because they shared so much information. I want to do the same. So
you give so much to the community. It is impressive. We're getting a little off topic here, but I was struck at the unofficial Real Geeks user conference last year how, people were coming up to you and, thanking you for your contributions. It was really impressive. I mean, it says a lot about you, and I feel like I know a little bit about, how you're paying it forward. And I guess here's the other thing I was going to say is last week I was meeting with the Susie Ellis team in Lake at the Ozarks, and she has an agent that is 1 week old, got her real estate license a week ago. And she was saying that she was rewatching all the Keeping It Reels and listening to the Greg and Abe's and consuming as much of that content as you can. So, Greg, you're the one of the central influencers now that's shaping the next generation of real estate agents.
Well, I just feel like I'm running with the torch right now. That someone else lit for me, and I'm carrying it through. But the reality is there are this group. I mean, Real Geeks #1 is amazing. It's what you need. You don't need all this other crap. And when you start putting your stuff in 50 different things, it gets confusing and nobody wants to use it. So #1, I'm a big advocate of that. I've looked at other platforms. I've created some of my own stuff. stuff that, is just too much to manage. You need a like a professional team of people to run that thing. You can't do it on your own. It's crazy to think you'd want to. So, and then on top of it, that they have the Keeping It Real group and they've kept it alive this long and with great content, bringing on great people with new stuff that is relevant to today, and even just bringing Kevin in with the AI stuff and, just discussing that, it's so important. And I think people just get lost in the crazy stuff of real estate because there are so many shiny objects and there's always something new that you can implement. I'm sure this AI thing will bring a bombardment of like junk we don't need, because at the end of the day, it's really just honestly, how can you build a real human interaction with a consumer? Now, you can use some tools to help you be able to do some of that. But at the end of the day, you still need to communicate with them and you still got to be a true, genuine, decent person and, and be able to provide value. Are you providing value? Do you believe that? I think is the biggest question. Do you personally, as an agent, believe that you're providing value, and do you know what it is? And if you don't know what those are, it's going to be a long, hard road for you, because how are you going to sell something you don't even know or believe in yourself? So you got to first identify that. And, as a broker or team lead or a new agent, even, you need to have systems in place. And that's what will build your confidence. Have a process that you bring people through and have it be something that's really adding value. If you have that in place, then you can think about it and go, you'd be crazy not to take advantage of this. Like anybody that wouldn't want to take, any new buyer in my market that wouldn't want to take care of the process that I've created for my team to present, including myself, is crazy, because we're providing so much value. They're definitely going to get something out of it when they walk away. If they, and we believe that. And therefore it's so easy to get them to come in and meet with us because we know they're getting something. So you have to have that yourself. And that takes a little time to build. It's not something that just, you walk into often.
We talked a lot about, like what people should do. And I did have like a quick hit question on this, because I know you're Mr. like automation guy. And you've got like our customers like use your automation a lot, which is available in the library. They can check it out. But do you have a different automation for like, okay, this is someone that came in through open houses, and maybe there's a follow-on question there of like, do you even have more that are like, broken up by other lead channels that you might be using?
Yeah. So I don't have an open house one. Not that, that we couldn't build one. I think if I did build one, it would have to be because the difference is at this point, you already have a relationship with them. So most of our drip campaigns and our automation that we have in our systems are all about, we want an opportunity to show enough value where they'll at least answer our phone call or respond to us in some shape or form. So most of that is created on that. And I will say I do have a couple that work really, really well. One would be our for sale by owner drip campaign. That's one that we built out many years ago. And it really, when you're calling a for sale by owner, you got to remember, number one, they don't like you as a real estate agent, or I shouldn't say they don't like you. They don't see a value in real estate agents, or they would have listed with a real estate agent. So the reality is you have a long road to go. So the worst thing you can do as a real estate agent, in my opinion, is insult them for not having a real estate agent, or tell them that they'll never sell their house without a real estate agent, or they're leaving money on the table, or whatever else thing you think you slick say to them. They're smart enough to see through it. So the reality is we usually go from the other angle, and we go from an angle of trying to help them. Hey, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? Wow, I can't believe nobody's come and look at your house. Or we start talking the truth. The people have called you and come to your home. Have they all been realtors? They're probably trying to get the listing. So have the people who come made you lowball offers or offered cash and do it for way less? Or, so the stuff that we know that they're feeling and the pains we know they're feeling, how are you going through making sure that the people that you're meeting with are qualified before they come through your home, so you don't have somebody that can't even buy a house walking through your home and wasting your whole weekend. So we're adding on to that, but we're asking a lot of questions. And, that's each conversation is going to be completely different based on the person that's on the other side of the call, because this is just one call. Our goal is to get their email address, because usually you're going to have their phone number, because they're going to have it on their sign or wherever they have it shown. It's usually just the phone number. So our goal is on that call, the only thing I really care about out of the whole thing is, number one, trying to show that I'm trying to support them. And then number two, get their phone number, their email address, so I can put them in my drip campaign. And as they had this amazing thing when I was a kid come out. It was set it and forget it. And it was a rotisserie. That's what I'm doing. I'm putting the chicken in the rotisserie. I'm setting it, and I'm coming back to a delicious chicken. So
sounds good.
So
maybe it's the modern example would be the Traeger.
The Traeger.
There you go. Okay, so lightning round. A couple of quick, questions here. How long should an open house last?
I typically like them to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Anything over that is going to be too long. Anything under that, you've done so much prep and everything. You're already there. You're best off doing an hour and a half, so at least you're covering to 2 hours is what I would say.
Do you do any staging?
Staging's done, once again, it would be part of our listing presentation. We include a free staging with all of our listings in our market, and that works really well. We do the consultation so with a professional staging company. So.
Do you provide any refreshments or anything for the people visiting?
Yeah, so we try to bring bottled waters that, we have a label set up at our office that they can just put over the regular bottles. So you're not buying them from a company labeled, you're just putting your label on there. And then also, we always say like hard candies and stuff. This is a good point as well. That's the other thing we encourage our team to have is what we call an open house bug out bag or open house bug out tote. And in there should be like all the things you always need for open house. So like open house sign-in sheets, your general forms that you need per your state, those you always need. We always say some hard candies, a tape measure, a flashlight, some extra bulbs, definitely tons of pens, because that's what happens. You get there and you're like shuffling through your glove compartment because you don't have enough pens or whatever. Also booties, if for the front door. What else do we have in that sense? Candle, so you can make it smell nice. I also always had like two things of the Glade, the spray, and I would just like walk behind me spraying it as I go through the whole house. So there's things you could do to make the house look better. Usually a little one of those cheap, I think most mortgage companies give them away for free now, like a Bluetooth speaker that you can just put in the kitchen to get some light music playing. So you want to create that whole atmosphere. I come from new home sales, so we did a lot of stuff to like create an environment. It was always like touch as many senses as you can. And I think that's the other thing. When you're walking somebody through the home, try to truly demo the home, what we always call it, demonstrate the home. And that involves using all the senses, getting the other person to open doors. And, we would open cabinet doors intentionally, open windows to show them how they work and stuff like that. Obviously you should know in each room, go over a couple things that are, make that room special and point it out. Once again, this is buying you time to have more conversation with the people. So that's the reason you're doing it. So take the time to do that.
Final question. Do you bake cookies?
So I used to bake cookies all the time. That is something that is because it definitely makes the house smell amazing. When you come in, there's cookies there. You can get those pre-made ones. They're you just cut it up and put them on there. One time I left cookies. Someone came to the door and I got on a whole tour. And then the whole house smelled like burnt cookies. So that wasn't a good thing. But yeah, if you can do that, it's fantastic. Or even if you can warm some cookies up or something, because that smell, once again, we're trying to hit as many senses as we can. So the smell, the temperature, make sure that the house is temperate to the right temperature. That's the other thing in New York, we make sure that they have a shovel when they go, because often there's snow walking up to the front door. So you got to shovel the lead walk, especially if it's a vacant. So
yeah, definitely. What are some of the big mistakes? Like we've talked about everything like that, agents should do, if they're following your plan, they'll do it right. But like, what are maybe, 3 of the traps that you've seen people fall into? So
number one is just like considering it like a job, or, just looking at it as like, hey, I just got to get there and I got to be there during these hours, and not taking it serious. So usually those are the people that get there right at the right time. There's usually people waiting there already. They put one sign up in front of their house, the house. They don't greet them when they come to the front door. They're pushing a card in front of them or demanding like, hey, I need to have this information filled out that, it's like you're checking into a military fortress or something like that. So, they're not earning the process and they're not showing their value or building rapport. I think all of those things. And then I think the thing I see the most, like to be completely honest with you, is these people do all this work, get these amazing leads that are people that are looking at houses in their market that they've already built rapport with and not doing anything with it. They get the card and they think like, I got the card and they got my business card. They're going to call me. They're not going to call you. I can tell you already. And the people that do, count those as blessings, but most people are not going to call you. And so you have to have a systemized approach of reaching out to them and providing them value, give them something, that is going to help them, or offer them something that's going to help them. I think so many people, they want them to come in and meet, but they never give them a reason to come in and meet, or even ask them to come in and meet. So, say, hey, has anybody offered to sit down and go through the whole process with you and answer all these questions? Also, the other thing is that another soft way to get that we've had tremendous success with over the last year is doing homebuyer seminars. The beauty of a homebuyer seminar, so you could hit somebody up 50 times and ask them to come in one-on-one, and they just won't do it. But then all of a sudden you send out a homebuyer seminar and like all those people come. You're just like, you could have got this VIP like one-on-one, but they don't want that like pressure on them where they feel like they're being sold. So they want to be part of that group so they can kind of hide behind like the process. And either way is fine because you're getting the opportunity. So we mix them together so that we get that opportunity to get somebody to come in and, offer them the soft approach if that's what they want. And, we'll pick off 3 or 4 per one of those seminars of people that they wouldn't even answer our phone calls in some cases prior to that. And on top of it, we're encouraging them to offer it up to their friends and family or bring a friend or family with them. So we're increasing our leads or our database size again. But once again, all those people got to go back into the database. And you should be using the systems that Real Geeks has in place. One of them, if you're not using those headers on your leads dashboard page where you have the pipeline that they're going through, you're missing another opportunity because we have our agents trained that, basically everybody, I don't know why they have a couple statuses like the first two. I don't believe in NORCHAR is like where it starts for me. Everybody's in NORCHAR. Our agents asked, are trained that someone that's a dead lead is actually physically dead. They don't live anymore because every lead has an opportunity of some kind. Now, you might not reach out to them as much or whatever, and you should have that in your notes or in your tags.
I'm hearing the voice of Greg Harrelson right now.
So I mean, well, the people have been doing this a long time and understand the systems and stuff and have seen it day in and day out and seen the results and everything. We know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about because we see it all the time. So we know where the value is. We know the opportunity. And so, and then it goes into, appointment set and then out showing and looking. And, those are your best customers. I think that's another place people really drop the ball. They have people that are committed to them and then they don't do anything. They don't bring up, hey, did you see this house come on the market? They basically put it all on the buyer. And hey, if you see something you like, send me a link or tell me you want to go look at it. And it's like, dude, you're like totally missing out on the process here. You got to be engaged still and still work them and still be involved. And, I had this happen for actually my assistant at my real estate assistant's been looking for a house. And I said, the other day, I said, hey, did you see this house come on the market? And she said, no, I didn't see it. And so she would have missed out. And that's what she does all day. So like your customers are going to be the same thing. You have to help them get there. And that's why it's important.
It's funny how, we talk about all of these amazing marketing tactics and like strategies and, kind of nurture flows, but it all just comes back to following up, like picking up the phone and following up.
Well, I've heard, I don't know who, it's somebody in this group that I've heard that the F word in real estate is follow up. Yeah. And that always stuck with me. And and it's true. Like most people don't want to follow up. And that's the other thing we train from day one with a CRM. The only way a CRM works is if you have a follow up, because if you don't have a follow up, it just stops. The computer doesn't know not yet, doesn't know what to do. I mean, we're a few minutes off from the AI version of Real Geeks that just tells us what to do moving forward. But as of right now, if you don't have a follow up, you don't know what that next step is. And you have to have that to make it work. So.
Definitely. This has been awesome, Craig. I really can't thank you enough for all this. Is there any parting thoughts that you want to share? Like you've been already giving us such like good gems here.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll say is you have to have a passion for this industry. If you don't have a passion, this might not be the right industry for you. I would encourage you to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I don't get up in the morning and this industry doesn't drive me. then you're probably in the wrong place. You should be so excited to start the morning and make those phone calls to the opportunities of those people, and change their lives. I mean, what other industry is there that, you can wake up in the morning and call some people that, have always wanted to own their own home. And, I think you also got to remember, home ownership is like so impactful to people. Like, it changes your life because it builds financial wealth, and it builds generational wealth. So like, you can pass it on. You could buy a house and just make your payments like you would anyways. And in the end, when like things end for you, you could leave an enormous amount of money behind for somebody that matters to you, or a cause that matters to you, or whatever else. And what other thing do people sell that is like that? I mean, you could say maybe stocks, but there's a lot of risk in that as well. And I think that you have to have a place to live. And for us to be able to align people with that and talk that language and understand how we can have impact on people's day-to-day or their long-term future or their family's long-term future, it's a lot of fun. And I think if you look at it that way, it makes it a lot easier to kind of deal with the craziness that we deal with sometimes too. So,
pleasure as always. Where can people find you?
NORCHAR.com is our real estate company. It's actually named after my two daughters, Nora and Charlotte. That's probably the best place. My wife and me own the company. She is kind of behind the scenes and all the brains, and I'm just the face, which is kind of reversed, but that's kind of what we do. And the reality is, if you need anything, please reach out. I can't promise I'm going to be able to get back to you. And if you're asking the crazy questions, probably keep those to yourself. I've gotten a few of those, and I don't know how to react to it. I mean, I love the energy, but some of it's like,
all right, as soon as we push stop, I'm going to ask you all about this.
It's not that hard. But so, I mean, I'd love to help you out in any way I can and build your business and get you to the right place. So.
Sounds great. Thanks again. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching Keeping It Real. And if you have any questions, like Craig said, you can leave them down in the comments, or you can reach out to us directly. Please hit that subscribe and like button. It really helps us out. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time. Thanks.